The purpose of telling this story is not to insult any particular religion or to sell a particular fairy tale. The only purpose of telling the story is to give us a sense of real purpose for the gene pool and soul group. You know how we talked about Australia as having a potential role as the crest of the wave of spirituality from the legend of the golden dolphin circling the planet? So the refusion of the soul group could happen here. So Australia gets a little sense of soul purpose. It creates a bit of national identity. Well, now we have the planet. And the planet imagined itself to be an orphan in that we imagined that the DNA on Earth came from Earth. That was a mistake. Clearly it did not. Some evidence that the DNA on Earth did not come from here include, if you take the Sumerian alphabet, the Sumerian glyph structure, and you shine lasers through them, you fabricate subcellular structures in biophysics. The Sumerian elixirs of the MD microscopist George Merkel in Texas. So clearly the Sumerian alphabet is an optical waveguide system for creating cellular metabolism. Lots of evidence. Sumerian elixirs. Evidence B, the Hebrew alphabet is the tilt angles of a magnetic domain referenced by the symmetry of the tetrahedron in order to tilt DNA codons into a tetrahelix they call a golem. So that the Hebrew alphabet was a software environment for interventionist genetic engineers. Okay? So these are two examples of the origins of language on this planet being specifically evidence that the origin of culture on this planet was, in fact, interventionist genetic engineering. Now, in fact, the major issue of our soul group today is the fact that our DNA is getting dizzy because our genetic engineers do not understand how to make a soul. This is a problem. So here we are, Groundhog Day. You know, it's like all coming back on us again. Our ancestors hacked up DNA, and that fractionation of their soul group, we're the result of their dream, right? And now we're repeating their mistake. So history condemns those who do not understand history are condemned to repeat it. So here we are. We must understand the extraterrestrial origins of the DNA here and what the yearning was. And that's what this story is about. Okay. Once upon a time, there were two families of angels. We'll call them the Ophanim and the Seraphim. They said that they chose 1,254 star systems to cast a cat's cradle shadow of themselves in their image and likeness here. The physics of astrology is that the angular arrival of a capacitance wave is how you measure gravity. And so, in fact, the self-similarity of the solar system with respect to the array of those stars created literally a body in their image and likeness. A practical way to measure that is the self-similarity of the Earth's electrical field, which made more gold here than most planets, because gold only happens where ley lines cross in a fractal, and it made the DNA able to become self-aware here more quickly. More fractal you are, more able you're able to unpack awareness. So the solar system had a lot of value according to real estate, location, location, and location. We was fractal. Well, what happened was the Andromedans said, well, why did you deposit those interventionist Alpha Draconis Dracos in our galactic sector since they were so much trouble? And the answer was, the Ophanim and the Seraphim angels had a conversation about designing a gene pool that could be the solution to the angelic dilemma, which was how to fabricate star births with higher leverage, which is angel birth, and literally how to create a level of psychokinesis, literally power, that hasn't existed in gene pools before. And they did this, what they did is they selected a galaxy a long way from downtown and inserted a gene pool which was able to have enough survival urge to be able to make it in such a hostile environment. And that's the group that went to Alpha Draconis. And the group who said they put them there were called the Patal, P-A-A-T-A-A-L, from which comes our word Ptah, P-T-A-H, and pterodactyl. Okay? And the Patal were said to be 11th dimensional beings, and you can think of them as bird tribe. And I believe that that story is related that the continuous blackboard, here, the continuous family of these gene pools was later described. You have the Ophanim, is a Christian word. You have the bird tribe, is the Iroquois word. And you have the Adawi, is the Cherokee word. And you have the Valnapa, which is the Adnyamatna native Australians word, return of the bird tribes, which are the winged ones. And then over on this side, you have the Seraphim. And the Seraphim eventually became the lineage of Mag. And the Seraphim became the Uru. The Uru part of what was later called Nibiru. Right, Aru, exactly. Uru means dragon or snake or serpent. The snake gods. Okay, and these, the bird tribe, were called Ebi, from Ibis and Iberia, and Geul, which was bird tribe. And when you do the crossing over of these two bloodlines, you get Ebi, Uru, which becomes the word Nibiru and Hebrew. And if you ask a Hebrew rabbi, he will tell you that the word Hebrew means crossing over. Okay, and in fact, on the Uru side, you had a well-developed reptilian brain stem, which was very juicy and useful. Okay? And on the IB side, you had a dog or bird-shaped brain, the dog-bird brain, from which comes our word Dogon and Daganavida. Daganavida. Okay? And this becomes the dog bird, and the group that was the characteristic of the dog bird brain is called Wealawa, and you can read about them at wealawa.com, actually. And the story was that the Orion Queen Mag seraphims had won a high percentage of the inhabitable planetoids in the Orion sector, but a truce was called when they realized the dog bird brains, the Wealawa, would accept in marriage an Orion Queen matriarchal telepathic Mag in marriage with each king on a planetoid of the dog bird. This is very ancient galactic history as told by Robert Morningsky Hopi in the book Guardians of the Grail. But this becomes remnant in later history when the Syrian blood behind Jesus Tutankhamun accepts in marriage the dynastic union with the Mag blood, which was said to be the royal families of the Essenes, but the royal family of the Essenes is actually Egyptian, and it's important to know. But that's getting ahead in our story. So, we're trying to get a sense here of what's later described as the war in heaven. What happened was, apparently, a certain portion of this bloodline had begun to use, had come to the belief that you could speed up evolution by mating mechanical structures directly to biological structures. So you have a mechanical bio group called the cyborg. And the Borgs from the Star Trek series have a great historical meaning in the Orion Wars, I believe. And the mechanical biostructures created a fierce survivalistic telepathic group. And they miscalculated how survivalistic and telepathic this group would become, and eventually they rather took over the Orion sector. The upside of this was they were able to survive better. The downside was they lost passion. They lost glandular passion. And the story of exactly how this happened, which Corinus did at this